Right, back to where we were a few days ago, because I've had a break while I fitted the rear wheel, and that's taken, all sorts of work. And but anyway, the reason that we put the rear wheel on was so that I can lock the engine, well, lock the clutch, the primary chain if necessary, with the back wheel. If I need to, while removing the primary chain, or belt drive in this case, because we're investigating why the starter motor isn't turning. And that's why I had to leave all this, suddenly do all the back wheel and all that, so that I could lock it if necessary, whilst taking the nuts off in the primary. So we've had a little sort of diversion. We've worked off a little tangent, and now the tangent is finished. We're back to the job we started on originally, which is taking this apart to find out why the starter motor isn't working, or why the starter motor is working but the mechanism isn't engaging with the engine. My money is on the Sprag, what's called the Sprag bearing. It's a special bearing which should engage when you turn the starter and turn the engine, and then disengage when the starter stops, so the engine can turn around without turning the starter at the same time. And I think that's gone wrong or something. That's my money, but I don't know. We'll have to take it apart. Okay, we can see all this. I think we can. So I've got the Mega Blaster. I've got a 1/2 inch width socket, and see if we can remove this nut without locking the rear wheel or anything, because normally the shock of the Mega Blaster is enough to loosen things. There we go. Yeah, that was kind of semi-rusted on, because of course the primary chain case is running dry. We can get the stator off. I think we're just on a 1/2 inch AF. A bit faster. Don't forget the spacers. There's special thick washers on these stators. Come on. Come on. There we go. Right, let's have a look. Let's see if I can persuade the stator to come off. It's loose. Right, got the tyre levers. See if we can encourage the stator to come off. It's loose. It's just, it's always tight on these three studs. They're always a pain, because this metal bit isn't solid. It's actually made up of layers and layers of separate plates, and they tend to catch on the threads of the studs. So it's not like a normal billet thing that it will come off. They do tend to catch on the threads. And of course we're fighting the rotor magnet, which is trying to hold it on. There we go. So I'll leave. Right, I've just got some wood there, and I can just hold let the stator rest there, rather than putting the wires out, which is a pain to then push back in again. So hopefully they'll be okay. rotor, yeah, rotor's just coming off. Oh, sorry. Now, where's that go? Because that's the woodruff key. That's strange. That shouldn't be loose. It is. And then got a spacer behind. Yeah. So then behind the rotor is this spacer, thrust washer. But then we've got a very little washer behind that we don't want to lose, because that will be used as a spacer to align it up with the stator. Okay, so make a note, we've got sort of thrust washer and then spacer and then do a spacing washer. And hopefully they'll stay with the rotor, which is obviously a large magnet. Oh, and the woodruff key, and to save losing that, hopefully I'm just going to, again, like magnets, stick it on the rotor so it shouldn't get lost. Right, then part 3, we've now got this carrier affair here, and that is lock tabbed. Yes, it is lock tabbed. These, you've got little lock tabs on, so these have got to be, yeah, lock tabs got to be opened, and then we can take the carrier off. Okay, we've got the nuts of the carrier, so let's see if we can, the carrier will come off. Yeah, there it goes. So that's the stator carrier, and now I'll just check what you can see. I think you can see everything. So this is the backfire device, and what it is, it's designed so that under extreme stress, it's got like a clutch in it. It's actually 3 ball bearings, and under extreme stress, it's not like a solid piece. It's actually 2 halves put together. And if there's a backfire, then it will actually allow the 2 halves will spin separately, so it won't force the motor to go backwards. It will actually, this side will spin and the other side will stay still. So that's the backfire device, and that's the problem for why they didn't fit the starter going into the timing case, because that's obviously where it's crying out for. But when they tried to fit the starter into the timing case, if the bike backfired, it kept basically smashing the casing, and so they needed to fit a backfire device, and they couldn't fit it. There wasn't enough room in the timing case, so that's why they ended up putting it over here. Why they needed a backfire device, I mean, I don't know. What I mean is, you know, other bikes don't have it, as far as I know, or if they do, I don't know. Anyway, they needed one. Right, now, let's see. Does this come off? I think it, yeah, good. Okay. Can I get the Sprag bearing out without taking this? So I'm desperately trying to not take the primary apart. Not that I'm lazy, it's just that I'm a bit lazy. Hurrah! Well, some success. I have managed to tease the Sprag bearing out. So that's a Sprag bearing. And the idea of a Sprag bearing is that it will turn one way, but it won't turn the other. For whatever reason, the Sprag bearing is not spragging. You know, so it's just spinning, which is what's happening. You know, when we start the turn, this is going round, but it's not locking onto the engine sprocket. Okay, I'm a bit confused now. The good news is I realised, of course, that you can pull the backfire unit just pulls out of the big pinion at the back, and so that gets it out of the way. So then I can just play with the with this pinion or gear, and it would seem to be working, that the Sprag bearing is working perfectly. You know, you can't turn it that way because that's going to turn the engine over, but it will go backwards. It was a bit glued up. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. And then I sort of loosely assembled it all just then and sort of tried it on the starter, and it seemed to be fine. So I'm no nearer working out what's right and what's not. Right, what I've done is I've just sort of lubricated everything. I think that what might be the problem is simply that the grease in the Sprag bearing has just like solidified or done something from standing in 10 years, and it's basically just slipping. It's causing the Sprag to slip or stick and not actually work. And now I've lubricated it, I put a bit of WD-40 on and then some lithium grease, and it now seems to be much happier. So I've greased everything again, and I'm just going to reassemble and we'll give it a go. So that just slides on, that pinion, and then this is the anti-backfire unit. And this just luckily slots in to there's a big pinion at the back here. You might be able to see it. The starter motor goes onto that big pinion, and then that big pinion in the middle of it is this the backfire, anti-backfire mechanism goes into that big pinion and spins that. This is the only fiddly bit, trying to get the backfire unit into that. There we go, went straight in. Okay, and then the anti-backfire unit spins this, which then in turn does not spin when the engine's running. Oops, I'm getting some bit of grease there. Right. 3, 2, 1. Right, okay, so I've loosely fitted the sort of carrier and the rotor, because the carrier holds the backfire device in place and the rotor holds the pinion that the Sprag bearing's in. So let's see if it will turn over or whether it keeps just not engaging. That's what it's been doing, not engaging. Right, come on, engage. Yeah, perfect. Look at that. There we go. Now, all it wanted was a bit of lubrication. Yeah, so it's been sitting for 10 years. And the grease had just, I don't know, solidified or whatever it had done, and it was just causing the Sprag bearing to malfunction. Right, I'm tightening up these carrier nuts, and they do up to 15 foot-pounds, and so I've got my small torque wrench, because my large torque wrench, the highest that goes up, the lowest that goes down to is 20. Right, I've put the stator back on, and I'm putting these nuts back on, and I've put them back on with a bit of Loctite, because again they're only up to 15 foot-pounds, and you don't want them coming loose. And I'll just check that we do have a gap all the way around. Yeah, a bit tight there, but we're okay. Yeah. We do have a slight gap. We need a minimum of an 1/8 thou gap between the stator and the rotor, otherwise it can burn the stator out. Okay, and then again up to 15 foot-pounds. Oops. And then we've got to find a way of torquing this nut up. I think it does up to 70 foot-pounds, so we'll have to see about that. Right, okay, so I've jammed some rag in the belt drive. I've engaged first, so I've got the back wheel, and I've jammed some wood underneath the back wheel, because of course I can't put the brake on because that's not connected yet. And I've put some Loctite on this engine sprocket nut, and so we should be up to 70 foot-pounds. So I've done it up. Hopefully it should just click. Come on. Oh, come on. There we go. Yeah, so that's up to 70. Phew. And then all I've got to do is to try and undo everything. Yeah, that rag came out easy enough. Once I'd unjammed the back wheel, I just turned it around a couple of times on the back wheel, and there we were. Okay, we're back in neutral now. I'm just going to put this, I'm just loosely putting that Allen screw in, simply because it supports the starter motor, and that's why I've had it in there. It's not pulling it, obviously it's just stopping it from twisting, etc., just while I check the engine. Right, I've got the plugs in, so there's a bit of compression on it now, but make sure the engine run is off, just to be doubly okay. Make sure I'm not going to get myself caught. Here we go. And there we go, one fully working starter. And all it needed was a bit of lubrication, because it's just been standing, and there's the Sprag bearing, which I suspected was the problem, but all it needed was the Sprag bearing being lubricated, and we're back in business. I think the first lady of the house is back, so that's a good time to stop. I'll just clear up a bit, and but I'm pleased with our work today.